This is where nearly 75% of the U.S. population lives, why we're seeing ICE federal agents in Chicago, LA, New York, and so forth. Currently, these unidentifiable federal agents, heavily armed and shielded from oversight, are storming our parks like they did in MacArthur Park, hospitals, schools, churches, and our neighborhoods. And they're empowered by billions in funding. As you all know, the big, beautiful, bogus bullshit bill made way for $46.6 billion for the border wall, $45 billion for detention expansion, $30 billion for 10,000 new ICE agents, 266 new detention centers. This means that ICE wants 80,000 new beds. We're already leaders in mass incarceration, and it's about to expand. All of this feeding private prisons. Geo Group, Core Civic stocks are increasing and growing. And war waging against the most vulnerable of our communities. Undocumented folks with the precarity of status. So what happens when we build 80,000 additional beds that need to be filled every day? When we militarize our cities and those beds aren't filled, when we deport, the logic of capitalism demands a return on investment. So people become the commodity, and we know that. Yeah. They're detained not because they pose a danger, but because the system demands their exploitation, and it is already happening. So what then happens when 80,000 beds need to be filled and there are no more migrants? Who will they come for next? Post 9/11, the U.S. entered a new phase of governance. We saw the birth of Homeland Security. Under the Patriot Act, state surveillance became normalized. You all hear and have heard of Palantir Technologies. It's a major defense contractor for the CIA, NSA, and ICE. It builds software that processes vast biometric and location data sets. Our social medias, financial histories, our medical records are all up for grabs and for analysis, all in the name of national security. This is the back-end intelligence behind predictive policing, game databases, and ICE raids that are currently happening. This year alone, Palantir stock surged over 480%. And just yesterday, it was named the 20th most valuable company in the US, proving that surveillance, capitalism, and state violence are deeply profitable. Lloyd Detention Center is an example in Arizona, where there are no jobs in that area beyond this private prison. A March 2025 DOJ directive cited the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to allow federal agents to enter homes without warrants, reviving the 18th century legal framework to justify 21st century authoritarianism. We saw the justification was about Venezuelan gang members, but what it creates is the space and opportunity for federal agents to go into homes, regardless of citizenship, regardless of status, with the justification. In practice, all of this manifests as racialized policing under the guise of national security. Realistically, they are not stopping the Irish migrant who overstayed his visa. They're going after people that are read as Black, Brown, Indigenous, as other. They are after our Hispanic, Latino, Latinx communities. Yeah. This all fits with Harsha Walia and Border and Rule described as the border industrial complex, increasing from the prison industrial complex. A global regime that manages human movement to maintain racial capitalism, criminalizing people who have already been displaced by war, by economic collapse, or climate disaster, often caused by the very nations now shutting their borders, including the US. Harsha Walia writes, migration is not the crisis, capitalism is. Yeah. So we're witnessing the merging of immigration enforcement with domestic policing. ICE, CBP, military forces are moving to absorb all agencies. We already know the FBI, CIA have all deprioritized white-collar crimes, and everyone is prioritizing immigrant detention and border enforcement. All of this operating outside accountability and with complete legal impunity. To be clear, this is not law enforcement, this is state terror. We saw some examples, a Vietnam veteran's father being detained, violently beaten by federal agents. We see medical staff in California that have been criminally charged for delaying ICE raids within their hospital rooms. Senator Alex Padilla of California was tackled for asking questions. And then we saw the federal government lie. The Supreme Court had a decision in 2020, Hernandez v. Mesa, which also guaranteed federal agents immunity in cross-border killings. Now, if you all have paper and pen, I highly recommend you write this down. This is ICE, their own data sets that you can visit. ICE.gov/detain/detention-management. All right. ICE.gov/detain/detention-management. You'll be able to see it up on. There you go. So when you scroll all the way down, you will see 2025 fiscal year statistics. There you'll be able to see the breakdown of who is being arrested where, and you go deeper into the data that ICE is providing. And there is a section in this data set in which ICE identifies who is a threat and who is not. And according to this data, only 7% of current detainees are classified as high risk. 83% are deemed no threat level, and this is ICE's own data. Yet detention and deportation rates are climbing, and the rhetoric that you hear on the news points to something very differently. So the U.S. continues to manufacture the need for this border enforcement, but also for illegal immigration, using foreign policy, trade deals, and climate inaction to force people out of their homelands. And it punishes those very people for arriving. The same government that tactically relied on undocumented labor for decades is now engineering the mass incarceration and removal of our most vulnerable population. Now, wrap up with this. Michelle Alexander authored The New Jim Crow 15 years ago, in which she described mass incarceration as a means for creating second-class citizenship, particularly targeting Black men. Today, the same logic is being applied to non-citizens who have no citizenship protection, thus creating a two-tier justice system where asylum seekers, migrants, are being held without bond, without trial, without due process or representation. Trump's 2025 current revocation of asylum bonds forces people to fight for their lives behind bars. How do you do this without representation? The 13th Amendment abolished slavery, except as a punishment for a crime. It is still legally permissible for prison labor to operate within the U.S. This creates the infrastructure for perpetual exploitation. So as we expand detention facilities, incarcerated bodies become necessary resource, a necessary commodity to justify budgets, profits, and political agendas. The risk of labor exploitation of migrant prisoners can be the next step. This isn't about safety, and it is all about control, profit, fear. It is a logic of racism and of empire, of imperial expansion. Politicians are weaponizing migration to divide us, to distract us from billionaires and corporations extracting wealth, violating our human rights, and destabilizing this country and the planet through war. The future we're heading toward, with high-risk surveillance, with high-tech surveillance, detention and deportation camps, continued labor exploitation, and impunity for state violence, isn't completely inevitable, but our resistance is critical. All of these are policy choices rooted in capitalism, empire, and racism. But I, like you all, in the organizations that we represent, in the communities we come from, we choose a different way. Just like I didn't choose the army, I chose a different way. I chose peace, and you all chose peace. So we collectively denounce war abroad and war at home, war against our neighbors. We denounce it. We believe in a future where borders don't divide us, but where solidarity transcends walls, where safety isn't militarized but grounded in justice and human dignity. Let us learn from history, California Prop 187, and the backlash, where we saw California turn on Republicans. Democrats don't have the answers either. And say, not in our name. We are rising again and again, not to defend this empire, not to defend militarization, but to abolish it. I thank you all, and I urge us to continue working together towards peace. God
honored to be here. I've been inspired by veterans of peace for now decades, so it's my honor to be here. And really, I have a lot of tough acts to follow. I think I'm probably just going to be piggybacking off a lot of what other people have said in my comments. I was originally thinking that I would be, trying to make sense given sense of what we're seeing day by day, every day on the news.